Hi, Jay. This is Ryan from Minneapolis. I wanted to respond to your discussion about Ryan Conrad's opposition to marriage equality as a gay man. I'm a bit behind on listening to the podcast, so this is a bit late. Sorry about that. I'm very familiar with Mr. Conrad's arguments against marriage equality. When I went to undergraduate school, I worked in the GLBT services office of my state university, and this discussion came up kind of often, and it was rather contentious. And as a gay man for marriage equality, I disagree with Mr. Conrad on a number of points. The argument goes something like this. We are gays, lesbians, and bisexuals. So those of us in same-sex marriages or wanting to be in one should not want to get married because that is a heterosexual institution. It is old-fashioned and archetypal. We should just try to have some other arrangement where we are respected by the law and by society for whatever relationship we are in. So immediately we have a conversation set up where we have us, the gays, and they, the straights, and we do not want to be a part of their society, or at least we should just demand that it change to better suit us. This is sort of a natural thing that happens to minority groups in the midst of fighting for equality. There's usually a small but sizable cleavage that breaks off the main movement and wants to fight for separation from society at large rather than for participation. The same thing has happened with the Black Panthers and some Latino groups and even some feminists in the past. And I personally understand these feelings. When society at large has rejected you for so long, at some point, you're just tempted to ask, why do we even need to be a part of the society which has shunned us, in our case, for centuries and centuries? That kind of hurt is readily audible by Conrad's phrases like to stoop to straight people's level and that the confines and shackles of heterosexual marriage. Then, Jay, you asked a good question, and you wondered if it would be a better use of our time and resources to fight for change against the social and legal framework for relationships for a better future. And I've asked myself that a couple of times over the years when I've been fighting for this right to marry, but my answer has always been no. Marriage equality is much more efficient and a worthwhile fight, and here's why. First, if we stopped fighting for something as tangible and universally understood as marriage, our fight would be less tangible and would not be universally understood as it is now. If, for instance, Lambda Legal decided to drop the fight for marriage equality and said, okay, let's fight for a better future, then we just need to respect each other's relationships, you would lose most people in the GLBT community, not to mention our straight allies. We would lose the grassroots and the money and so on, and that's because that it would not be clear what we are fighting for. Marriage just is a central cultural institution. And with this fight for marriage, we actually also gain other kinds of rights and social recognition, and we become less of a stigma in society than participating in society, and things like going to public high school isn't so difficult. But the truth also is that most in our community don't agree with Ryan Conrad at this time. Most of us are in the phase of our struggle where we just want to have the same rights as the rest of society, and we want to be respected. I think that most people in our community don't view marriages as archaic and as oppressive as Ryan Conrad does. We view it as a central cultural institution, and same-sex couples raising children and those of us who hope to one day raise children just want equality now. I think if Ryan Conrad wants to change the legal and social framework around marriage numerically, he would find more support with heterosexuals. We in the GLBT community are just too few as it is, and most of us in this minority actually want marriage equality. And finally, I have to say that this turns into sort of an argument for people who want to not only gain equality, but to actually radically change society, like Mr. Conrad. They're in a position to not want to need or not want or need social or legal or financial benefits for marriage. For them, the cost of obtaining legal rights, such as power of attorney and legal inheritance, which costs thousands and thousands of dollars in legal fees, is not as pressing for them as people with lesser incomes or statuses. Medical insurance under our laughable system is not as big of an issue if you are, say, a university professor at a state university with domestic partner benefits. But for those of us who are more economically and socially vulnerable, it's actually a lot more pressing. And I would encourage people like Mr. Conrad to go out and to make their points and have their movement and go out and actually make their social movement if they feel that they actually have enough of a critical mass to have one. But I just find that it's odd to to do so at the expense of the rest of us in the community who want equality. Thanks for the conversation on this, Jay. I hope that gives some more light to it.